Wonderful. We're going to start with a small meditation of just some breaths and praying in, and then we will get started. Welcome. Take a deep breath in, breathing out and releasing all the air. Taking another deep breath in and bringing it up the spine, filling your heart. Releasing it out. And one more big breath in. Try to expand your heart out as far as you can into the spaciousness all around you. Taking this time to ground and center into this moment. Thank you, sweet spirit, for this time together. Suzie and I love, love, love coming together in conscious conversation and sharing our love, our wisdom, our blessings, our play with everybody who comes across this beautiful content we are here to share and to express in wonderful and beautiful ways that come through us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We know that what needs to be said will be said and shared. We know that we simply get out of the way and we surrender to this moment, knowing that all is well and all is perfect. And so it is. Thank you, thank you. Hi, Suzie.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love coming back into that moment of now and into the presence and really into the beingness, the essence of who we are and of life itself. So thank you for that. It's so delicious. And I hope everybody that is finding us on our channel is enjoying this as well. You know, Malissia and I are human. We're just sharing our journey in the deliciousness of being able to serve anybody who is having an asking or is looking for resonance or, you know, a little bit of guidance through their journey as well. And you know, it's about accepting all of who we are. And
Just the support. You might be looking to look for a little support or acknowledgement or some validation or just a friend out here in content world, a friend that is reflecting back to you what you yourself are experiencing or growing into, resonating, changing, shifting in these tides of the times in which as we evolve and elevate, sometimes we're just looking for something that resonates with who and what we are and others who are also experiencing the same.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know my journey at times feels very lonely because there's not a lot of other humans we can talk to that are going through what we're doing. So if you're here and what we're sharing resonates, welcome. And yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, you know, today I'd like to just share about a realization that I had yesterday. And that realization was that every fear that I have is born of the story that I've been living. It's all born of the mind. You know, the heart knows no fear. The heart is that all-being, omnipresent self of all creation, and it knows only love. And you know, you brought us very beautifully back into that moment in that brief prayer that we started with. But yesterday I was really going deep into, you know, what is fear? And you know, it's a feeling of unsafety, whether that be, you know, health, whether it be aloneness, whether it be abundance or lack thereof. You know, where does it come from? It all comes from a story, and it's the story that we've been living all of our life. And, you know, very much for 60 years of my life, for more than 60 years, I've been in this story that has kept me in a very small place, because each time fear came up, I would hear, teachers say, follow your bliss, follow your joy. So when fear came up, I was avoiding it and
Mhm.
turning away from it, thinking it was something real and something that could bring me down. But to realize it was just coming from the story, and that all of life is actually happening inside of my consciousness, inside of me. And I had ultimate control over that story. It really made fear and unsafety very small, like almost a non-player in the life. And yet it's not a non-player, because it keeps popping up all the time. And, I've heard different spiritual teachers talk about the ego and the death of the ego. And I always, used to think, well, I'm not egoic. Like, I don't necessarily want to be front and center. I don't want people to see me. I don't want to stand out. But the ego, I realized, was the personality, who I thought I was. It was the perception of everything I'd been living. It was the stories I told myself about what I'd been living. And that led to the feelings of unsafety, which were born of those stories that I was telling myself. And, even coming into the domain where safety is questioned had me realize that I was in mind and not in beingness, because I've had enough experience in beingness to know that when I'm there, when I am my true self, there's nothing missing, nothing fearful, nothing. It's perfection, it's pure love, it's bliss, it's wholeness, it's, safety doesn't even come up. You wouldn't question it. And the fact that I question it from time to time had me realize that, hey, that's just the human mind, or as some would call the ego. So what is your take on that, Malissia?
Well, it's interesting with fear because obviously there's real fear and there's reasons to really be afraid. If somebody is chasing you down a dark alley, then fear is really effective and apparent and realistic and necessary. And if there's a fire and you're having to get out, then the fear that comes up for your safety is a real thing. If your intuition is telling you that something's off and wrong, or and you feel fear in a situation that you can't even describe why you're feeling that fear. It may not be a story at all. It might just be your intuition giving you a warning that you need to go or be away from somebody or a situation. So there's fear in its sense of preservation and protectiveness. And then there's the fear, the ego fear of the ego dying, the personality in its separateness, when you're trying to really reemerge with the divine self, with your higher self, with your Christ consciousness self. And there's a part of you that doesn't want to give that up, doesn't want to unify. He wants to stay in that separate identity and that separate reality of the matrix, in this outside world. And then there's the part of you that knows itself is eternal and has been and will always be. And that part of you is never in fear. Even down a dark alley, that part of you is not in fear, because losing the physical form and the physical body isn't even an issue for the eternal you that will always be and has always been. That's not even a fear there. So it's really acknowledging for yourself your own takeaways of what is fear to you, and where is it validated, and where is it necessary, and where is it a story, and where is it in my head, and where is it just a part of my old self keeping me from growing into the new experience that I'm now ready for. And that
Mm.
there's a bit of fear. There's a wonderful book I read, 20 years ago, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Because in that sense, it's talking like you, where there's a sense of fear before you step into the unknown and into a new experience, a challenge. And so you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And
Mm.
sometimes we overstep and then we come back because it's like a rubber band. You're like, oh, that's too much. So sometimes it's just a small step outside the box of your comfort zone. And each step outside the box means that eventually you'll be here, not all the way back here, and you'll have a new fear because you'll have a new challenge and um, a new desire to be
Mm.
different in another way. And each time you take a step in a new direction and in learning to grow and expand who you are in your consciousness and in your desires and in your beliefs and who you can and will and want to be, each time can create some fear. And
Mm.
then of course that's mind fear because there's nothing actually out to get you. And the outcome is probably not a death experience. It's not a life or death experience of if I take this one step, it's really scary. I'm uncomfortable. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm in the unknown, but I'm not going to die no matter what. I mean, it's not going to kill me, but it is extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So in that case of hearing what you're saying, in that growth spurt, we all go through it. It's that one step forward, and if we do overstep it and we do take a big leap and it was too scary and it didn't work out, you can always return and it's okay. It's just being comfortable with that sense of defeat. It's not failure. It's still a growth. It's still something you're learning, growing, accepting,
Mm.
and to not stop there, not to let that stop you and never grow again. Oh, that was hard. I failed at that. I didn't succeed, so I'll never do it again. No, just take smaller ones.
Mm.
Now it's, now you tried a whole new career. Maybe it wasn't something you were successful at or knew how to do. Okay, so but I can take a training class that's towards that. Or I can talk to somebody else. Or I can take a small step towards what I want to do because you know who you are and you know what you want to do. You know deep inside. And if you don't know, then that's where you get to work with your intuition and start to get to know. And that comes through meditation and silence and quietude with yourself
Mm.
and asking yourself who and what you are. What do you want to be? Where's your clarity? And then having the courage
Yeah.
to overcome the fears that may come from that silence, like when you do get to know yourself, who you really are, and then overcoming the fears and stepping into courage and bravery of taking small steps
Mm.
towards who you really are and want to be, and knowing you're supported by the universe, you're supported by people who love you. And if you or anyone else wants to hold you back, that's just the old story. So,
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where I really came to. When I first, and as you know, because we've been going through this journey together for several months, well, for years, really, we've been connected, but this last 6 months perhaps, or 12 months, where we've been really, or where I'll speak for myself, I've been coming more and more into my truth and into beingness, to come into beingness, into that place of expansion, of spaciousness, of true self, of life essence, of isness. There's no room for that old story. And each time I've got out of my comfort zone, I've noticed the dialogue of the old story. What are you doing? No, you've got to do it this way. No, you're going to fail. You're going to lose everything. You've got to listen to me, and how many times have, in my life that I've tried new ventures and the fear came up, you're not good enough. You don't know enough about this. You're going to fail again. People are going to judge you. And even as you said, yeah, running away from danger in a dark alley. Of course, fear is serving us. We're still reacting to the story that we've created. Oh no, there's someone there. There's something there that is dangerous. And it may be intuition, and that's awesome. But I come back to like Daniel in the lion's den. I've never really been a follower of the Bible. I've never read the whole Bible, but through studying Neville Goddard and coming into understanding of some of these passages, and he was put in this lion's den, and these lions had been starved, like they were ready to eat him. And he turned his back on them, and he came into beingness, and he prayed, and he aligned with his God self, and the lions ignored him. And I'm not even going to try and remember the whole story. I know he was freed, and and I think, well, have I got that courage in me to actually do that? And it starts, as you said, with small steps. It's one step at a time. But I'm recognizing when fear comes up, where is this coming from? And I see the story behind it. And I think, okay, this is my story. I'm going to feel the fear. I'm honoring myself in that moment, accepting the fear, feeling it, allowing it to pass through me. But I'm certainly not going to entertain that story anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I can speak from a space of, sometimes we haven't had a really threatening situation. So it can just be a story in our mind of, movies we've watched, experiences that we've imagined. And then some of us have actually, been at gunpoint. I have been. And in that moment, I assure you, my fear was absolutely warranted.
Yep.
And was I brave enough to, in that moment, just pray? I was praying in my head. I did end up standing up to the person. I didn't get shot. I wouldn't recommend that for absolutely everybody. It matters what energy you're in and what courage you want to do, because of course I could have got shot. And in that moment, I chose faith over fear, but I felt it inside first. It wasn't just an idea in my mind and a conceptual ism and a God and a religiousness that I chose it from. This is what I have to do. It's a feeling I had inside, and I honored that feeling. I stood up for myself in that moment, and many others. I've had lots and lots of some really interesting experiences throughout my life, and sometimes I've had faith, and sometimes I've had fear. Sometimes I've honored the faith, and sometimes I've honored the fear. And both have been right at that time for whatever reason. And it's all a growth opportunity to look back and go, oh, could I have chosen faith in that moment? Who was I at that moment? Was it right to choose fear? That running was running right, or holding myself back? And then just most recently, stepping out after 3 years of not singing in public, when the pandemic came and everybody did lockdown, I then started writing as opposed to performing. And to step back out, it was really scary, but I did it. So here's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go out and perform downtown. I went and watched, but I couldn't get myself to do it. And then I wanted to do some, online open mics. So I found a songwriters circle, and I had just written a new song. Spirit had written a song through me in the bathtub, and I wanted to share it really with others. And I knew I could sing it, and that the songwriter circle weren't going to critique the singing. They were just going to be interested in the song. So it felt like a safe space to take that first initial step back out. And of course, I've been singing most all my life, but it didn't change the fact that just like anybody, I'm human and I could be in fear. But I took a safe space. I wanted to take this one, but if it didn't go well, or if I allowed fear or freak out, I could have made that a really uncomfortable situation and then never go back out. So knowing not to do that, and not even, and then feeling to the next one, like, oh, I'm still not there. Well, where am I? Oh, I can do this one. And it was a wonderful experience. I did it a couple more times, met some wonderful people who invited me to some open mics. Now I'm doing the open mics. Now I'm invited out. And it comes organically, naturally, now I'm singing and now I'm working with a producer in London and another songwriter. Simply by taking small steps, I got to an even larger step than I had envisioned. I didn't envision, oh, let me work with this producer in London that's really lovely and great songwriter. These people reached out to me
Mm.
just because I was willing to be courageous enough to feel my fear and do it anyway, to face my fear. And as we've talked about recently, you know, it's faith and embrace. I didn't just face embrace, because facing it could be me and my ego and all my fears and all my stories and all my insecurities. But when I faith and embrace, I'm really stepping over into my higher divine self and I'm handing it over to God to say, you got this.
Yeah.
There is an intelligence within me that knows exactly what to do, and it is my whole self, it is my ideal self, it is my God self. And
Mm.
that intelligence got this.
Yeah.
There's part of me
Faith,
that doesn't got it, but I'm not
yeah,
going to go into that one. I'm going into the faith.
yeah. Faith really, if it's real faith, brings us into that beingness, that place where you just know, and I can't say I'm there a lot. I'm there occasionally, but I know, like, from that place of beingness, there's not even a question of this won't work or any fear that comes up. Like, it's just not in that state of being, in that frequency. And to me, this is an added extra to this state of being, to being in beingness. The bliss that I feel in that space, and it just resonates through my whole body, and it's just such a strong knowingness that it's something I want to cultivate, and really intending for it to be something that I can live and bring through myself into the world as I live my life. And I can imagine being in this life as my true self, because it's only fear that holds us back from really expressing all of who we are.
Well, thank you, Susie. That was a beautiful share, and I appreciate you sharing with me and with everyone else your thoughts on really fear to faith and fear to encouragement and trust in yourself to fig to really go into what's on the other side of fear. And so many people talk about this topic. It's really something that you have to internalize and ask yourself where you're at, because fear can also mean many different things
Mm.
depending on what you're facing
Yeah.
and where it's coming from. Because only you can know for yourself what
Mm.
is right for you at any given moment. And it's you that you have to learn to trust. And it's you that you have to learn to follow that intuition and self-love to your highest and best experience here in this world. So thank you, Susie, for sharing your highest and best experience journey.
And thank you. And we can't really talk ourselves out of fear. It's about feeling ourselves into that different space, and
Love.
from that space of beingness, the answers come. So thank you. And yeah, thank you to our audience. And yeah, I look forward to sharing again soon. Big hugs.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and share in any way with anyone you would love to. And please leave any comments. We would love to engage with you and have conversations and bring them up as topics on future videos. Thank you.
Thank you.